Hey, what's going on guys? Hope that everyone will be fine and welcome back to another tutorial. So in this video I'm going to explain you how you can create a filter using JavaScript. Just like my all videos, you see that I have created the filter using PHP. I have created a filter using Laravel and as well as on different using different ways like checkboxes and select options. So here I have an option using the JavaScript. So let's suppose if I want to click on the if I type here business, as soon as I click on BU, and it only shows me the business card, so it filter out. So if I type here C, and you see that it's gonna show me it as soon as it matched with my values, right? So that's what we are going to build, and let's jump in and get started here. Alright guys, so there what we have started with the very basic HTML I have write already, which consists of the title, which I have already write. So if you're opening up the Visual Studio Code, so you just need to put your exclamation mark and the tab, and that's gonna bring you up all the HTML and the head tags, right? So I have already created the app.js file, which you just need to create from here. And I also have the image folder here. So I have 6 images, which you can grab from my repository if you want. If you want the same 6 images, you can grab all the 6 images, right? So the size, it's better that your size should be equal, that it looks good, right? So I did the same thing, that I just grab all the 6 images of equal sizes, right? So you can even grab images all from the Google. It's all up to you. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I have a blank page I have opened with my live server. In order to open up with that, you need to right click on it and click on the and just open it with the live server. But keep remember that if you haven't installed, so go into your extensions and you can simply type here live server, and that's the extension that I have already installed on my system, which is created by the Ritwik Day, right? So you can, which is very nice. I believe it has the highest rating. Alright, so that's where you can install the extension. Alright, so I'm using here Bootstrap to make my things a lot simpler. So you can go to the getbootstrap.com. I haven't created the card custom, which might takes time, so this gonna saves a lot of time, right? Bootstrap. So just simply grab it and paste it down to your title. So I just want to remove this integrity and cross origin. And if you need that, you just keep there, right? So it's not something which can put any impact or CSS. Alright, so next thing you need to do is to go to your HTML body, inside your body tag, and just create your header tags. And inside header, I'm using here the Bootstrap class, where I'm going to use h1 for the h1 tag, heading 1, and just bring up here a class of bg-dark, which gives you the background of dark. And I also want the text to be white, which I bring here text-white, and I also want my text into the center. So let's put up tab here, and everything looks good. So I'm using emit, which is by default in the Visual Studio Code if you have been using this, or you can use Sublime Text if you are interested, but you need to install the extension, I believe, if there's an option for the new version. I haven't used it, so you can just see its setting, right? So next we have here is just create a container. Let's create a container which brings up everything to the center. So let's give it the container and inside container I'm creating an input field. So first I'm gonna give here input dash filter, which is the which I created a class. Later on I want to put some style.css as well. So let's create that and give it the input type of text. So I give it the input type of text, and I want to give it a class of filter, and that's fine. All right. And next I need to give it a placeholder as well. So if you want to add your placeholder, you just simply need to type here enter title, right? And next you need to have here a onKey function, which later on we are gonna use here. So let's bring up here the onKey function, but I believe first we have to done with a basic structure for our front end, right? So next I'm gonna do here is, let's underneath of input dash filter, let's create another card-list class, and that's where we have all the cards, all the 6 cards I will create here. But you can, if you are interested to create as much you can create it. It all depends on the products that you have. And let's give it the ID of also of card-list if you want. If you can create your ID or class, up to you. I just want to bring all the things in a convention where we know that we are creating a card list. I bring up the ID, it should be card-list, right? Next we have is, because we are using Bootstrap, so we are using Bootstrap grid. So I created a row here, and inside row I'm going to create a card, and let's give it the class of card, and let's give each card of width 18 rem, which I want to which I will create in my style.css, right? And inside of each card I'm gonna create the image source. Let's give it the of img slash 22.jpg, which I already have inside my image folder. And let's give it the alt of image, alt tag. Next we are creating a Bootstrap class for the card-body, and inside card-body we have a heading of h5, and let's create the title of card-title, and that should be business. Let's give it the title of business cards. All right, so I believe we are good with the cards for the first heading. And now what you need to do is to just grab that all card and just paste it down for 6 more times, right? So I just 3, 4, 5, 6. So I created that, and now if I need to refresh it, and you see now we have our 6 card, but this doesn't look good. So in order to make that aligned, all I'm gonna do here is just create a style.css. So we have to create a separate style.css file. So let's give it the style.css, and inside our root directory I need to create a file with the name of style.css, and inside that what I'm going to do here is let's create the I just need to give it the card of width 18 rem. So I need to go to oops, I believe I created some folder, right? So let's create the file actually. So style.css, and inside style.css let's give it the first we start with a card. So let's give it the card of, I believe it's fine, yeah. All right, so inside card I'm gonna give it the width of 18 rem. Let's give it the width of 18 rem, which 1 rem is equal to 16 pixel, right? So you just keep remember that. And next we have to give is the border radius. Let's give it the border dash radius of 10 pixel. And next we have our box dash shadow. Let's give it the shadow, box shadow of 0, 5 pixel, 10 pixel, and let's give it the RGBA, which is the red, green, blue alpha for the opacity, and give it the 12, 16, 12, 16, 31, and 0.4. So that might give a something like a black color, right, or something bluish. I just you can see that color, right? All right, so next we have our margin. Let's give it the margin of 20 pixel and 40 pixel. All right, so let's give it the, let's move for the input field, right? So just because we have our input field where we have to type where we have to type the title for each card. So let's give it the border of 1 pixel. Let's give it solid and gray color, which is #333. And let's give it a font size of 18 pixel, right? So I gave it the, and let's bring up the padding to be 12 pixel and 10 pixel, and margin of 10 pixel and 0. All right, so now last thing we have here is the width, which should be 100%. Let's have a look up how it looks to be. All right, so our cards looks better, but a lot stretchy, and this title looks great. I need to bring some padding for my H header, right? So let's go inside your index.html and give it here is p-4. All right, so we are good with the padding. We have used here our bootstrap class, and something which is actually not looking good here is, let's go back because our cards looks a lot stretchy, I believe. So so 18 RAM, I believe. Okay, so 20 pixel, 40 pixel. Let's inspect the cards, and okay, so we have a cards, and let's give it the, which is fine. Cards should be, if I just reduce its RAM, which is fine, and if I bring up the height, so let's give it the height of 40 pixels, or should be 200 pixels, 300, 400, 500. Okay, so rather I should give it the width for the, let's give it the image of some size, right? So let's give it the image source. So I bring here img tag and give it the width of 100 pixel and height of, let's give it the height of 80 pixel. Let's have a look. So I go back here, these car looks a lot smaller to me, right? So width to be, let's give it the width of 100% and height of 20%, all right? Let's save it and see. It's very, very smaller, right? So these looks fine to me. Just give it one more, let's give it the 100%. Let's see how it looks. So these cards looks good to me, but the issue with that is the title is not really clear. So yeah, that looks good to me. Okay, so we are good with the front end. Okay, now it should not be card sublime, it should be something else. That should be where that it goes, card, it should be card filter. All right, okay, now what I'm gonna do here is, let's give it the ID of filter to the input field, because we are using the JavaScript later on, so we can grab its value from the document object model with the document.query selector, whatever we are gonna use for the DOM. And later on I'm gonna explain to you how we're gonna do it. So now just change the images, right? So that should be 64, and because I remember the name of the products for 64, it should be, let's give it the name of counter graphics. So counter graphics, let's suppose just give it the next one of 65.jpg, which should be flyers. So let's give it the flyers. All right, so next image should be 68.jpg. Let's give it the light box. So remove that and give it the light box. All right, so let's give it the second last, which should be name tags. All right, so and change the size, change the name of the image should 71, and the last in our case is 36.jpg, and give it the name of awnings, right? So let's bring up here awnings, which should be AWNINGS. All right, just saves it. And now check our, it's every image is changed now. It looks a real product, right? So we are good with it. I believe we are good with that. And now I need to, oops, actually that should be, here. Okay, so now we are good with the header, we are good with the container, we have all the cards with their heading. Now we need to write some JavaScript, which is the very important thing. So let's go up here and type here script source equal to and app.js, and let's write some JavaScript. So I have opened up my app.js file, and keep remember that because we are using here our search, and in the very first I have explained you about while we are using onKeyUp, the reason why I need to write here onKeyUp function, what actually it does, as soon as I type something and release my key, the function runs and it will look for the related title which we need to search for. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use here onKeyUp, which is a keyboard event, and as soon as I release the key, this is going to hit up an event. So let's give it the onKeyUp as a just create a write a function for it. So that's going to be search product. Simply you need to write up there. So let's gonna create this right here. So I'm gonna create a function with the name of search product, and inside search product, okay, now there if you guys are very completely new for the JavaScript, so there are multiple ways of select the element for the HTML elements, right? So you can use here document.getElement by ID if you're very new in JavaScript. So don't worry, I'm going to explain still everything. So for the ID, because we're using here ID as a filter, so it's good to have here and it's good to use here document.getElement by ID if you want. But there is another convention which you can use here. So you can also use here document.query selector, and that's where what all is the difference here, because you're using ID as a filter, so you simply need to type your hash. All right, so that's where the query selector, you can also use query selector if you want, right? So because we are using here a document.getElement by ID, which makes more I believe it makes more sense because we are using ID, so it's good to use here document.getElement by ID. But there is no difference for if you're using query selector, right? So it's just bring up here a variable. Let's give it the variable of input. So let's give it a const input equal to document.getElement by ID. Let's give it the ID as a filter, and I need a value for this because I need something. Whenever I type something, this is gonna get the value. So let's gonna console the log so you guys can see so what we can get here, right? So let's get the value for the filter. So I'm gonna open up my DevTools. Just simply do inspect and go to your console. Let's type here business, and whatever I type here, you can see on the right of your console that as soon as you releases something, this is going to display on your DevTools on your console. So that's how we can grab the value. Simply just type here, just fetch get the selector as a filter, which is an ID, and we need to get its value. So you can use here dot value. So that's where we can easily get the value of it. Now because I need to convert that into the uppercase, so let's do is you can use here a function which is to uppercase. So let's give it the camel case, do is small, and C is again in capital. And now let's see its output again. So I'm gonna use here console.log and bring up here input, go back to your Chrome, and let's type here business, and now you can see that everything that I typed is now into our uppercase. All right, so let's just remove that all. Okay, now next I'm going to create a container variable. Let's create a card container equal to document.getElement. I'm again using here a selector as an ID. So let's grab the I want that what we have basically 6 cards inside that main div, which is basically the parent div. We have a card dash list, and we also have the ID, and we also have the class. You can grab any one of them, but I'm gonna use here an ID, which is card-list. So I'm gonna copy that up, and because I want to see how much what we have inside this main parent div. So let's gonna grab this div and use here console.log. I want that everything that I do, you can also understand what's gonna happening here, right? So let's type here b. I'm just, because as soon as we write something, this function is gonna run. So we can see the console, and inside each card-list, which we have a main parent, and inside here we have our 6 cards, because we have 6 products shown on our document, and now we can see our 6 cards. And now in order to get its HTML collection as an array, so what does actually it means? So for instance, I create another variable with the cards, and let's bring up here the card container where we have the parent, ID, which consists of all the cards, div cards. So I need that into an array, which makes me more simpler to use a loop. So in order to use a loop here, loop means we need some iteration for each index. So let's suppose if I want to get all the cards, because we are using class. Now why I use here get element by class name? In order to fetch the class, we need to use here get element by class name. Let's bring up here is card. I believe that should be card. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do here is just simply console.log and give it the cards here, right? So as soon as I type something, now you can see, as I already explained, we get all the div, and inside all the card-list we have our 6 card which have the class of card. So we can easily grab the HTML collection. Now we have an array of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what I do next is I'm gonna use here a loop, and inside each loop we are gonna fetch we are gonna filter out the value on base of title. So what I'm gonna do here is, it's a very, very simple thing. I want to make things very simpler for you guys. So let's create a loop here. Now you see we have our 6 values. We have HTML collection, which is an array of lists. So let's gonna create here a loop here. Let's bring up as much as we have the class of card. So let's get the card's length, which should be 5 if we start from the index 0, and let's create the I++ for each increment. And now, because we are filtering the record on base of title, and for each index, so basically this cards will return an HTML collection, and I'm gonna use here query selector. Now in order to fetch the result on base of title, and what I'm gonna do here inside, because inside this main div we have our card-title class, where we are gonna filter the record on base of title. So we have card-body. Inside card-body, so let's type here is because we are using query selector, so I'm going to define here dot for class. If it's ID, you can put here hash. So, and inside card-body we have our h5 tag, and inside h5 tag we have our card-title. So let's put up here tag and put here card-title, and it's all good for now. So let's bring up here console.log and see what we have. So let's type here title and go back. So let's suppose if I write B, and you can see it's gonna show me all the null results. And what I'm going to do here is, it should be card-title, right? Let's save it and check this out. So if I type something, you could easily see that now we have our 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means we can easily grab all the title. You can easily see that. Now I want that whatever I type for my title, this is gonna filter out the card. So let's gonna use here if condition, if the title dot, and we need the inner text, right? So I'm gonna use here inner text. So whatever is inside H5, that actually means is we have our text inside here, which is the business card, counter graphics. So whatever the text we have for each card. So I want the title to get its inner text and also check it should be to the uppercase, because whatever we type, this is gonna convert to uppercase, but it should match whatever we type. So inner text and convert that into the uppercase. And now we are using here another function with the name of index of. So what actually index of check? It checks out each occurrence, the position of an array. So that's where it's gonna be very much helpful. So I'm gonna use here index of, and let's pass up here the value of input. So whatever we type, this is gonna check out its position or the occurrence of the element of an array. So let's pass up here inside index of and greater than -1. So that's a bit confusion for all the most of the developers, that why I have used here -1. So that means if it should be greater than -1, that means we have the record matched up whatever we have typed in our input. But if it returns -1, so that means there is no any value that matched up with our input. So that's where that means we will return nothing if it's greater than -1. Put up here if it matched, that means if it's greater than -1, if it matched up. So let's loop it, because as much the records which match, so we are keep using the loop here, and let's give it a style dot display equal to nothing. So what actually it means, let's give it the, actually I don't know why I get this. So style.display equal to something, whatever we get. And in the other case, if there is nothing, if it matched nothing, so let's just copy that up and give here none. So that means we are getting nothing if something which we type for the title which doesn't exist in all the products that we have. So I believe we are good to go. Let's save it and see. So let's type here business cards, and this gonna gives me an error. It says index of is not a function. Let's check this out, what we have wrong here. So index of, that's fine. So we have title dot inner text, or it should be to uppercase, right? It's a function actually. So we give it that. We index of is not a function, so index, which is fine, and we pass up here the input that should be greater than -1. Let's save it and see. Okay, now we have fine, I believe. Let's give it the counter graphics. You see now we can display the counter graphics, and let's give here B, which matched up with the business cards, which match with this box. Let's give it here light box. All right, so we get the value of each matching record. Now we have L here also in the beginning of the second product or cards. So that's how we can filter out the records using JavaScript, which is exceptionally a better way of doing it. You can use jQuery, you can use whatever you want, but I believe JavaScript is the future. It should be something which you need to understand and learn. If you're a full stack developer, or even if you're a front end developer, whatever the developer you are, it's very important to understand the basics about JavaScript. So that's really much it, guys. If you really enjoy this tutorial, please leave a like or subscribe, and I want to see you for the next time.